It's gonna take time, a whole lot of precious time. It's gonna take patience.
I'm so excited. All right, here with the amazing Deb Erickson, who started the ICANN Institute. She is a world-renowned mindset coach. She is a specialist in neuro tools, and I can attest to the value of those because truly, Deb, from what you have shared, has changed my life on every level and continues to change my life for the better. And I believe that extends to my family and my business and my human experience, if you will. What would be your first bit of advice to kind of start tilling the soil and really understanding about mindset, a true change? What would you tell us to get started?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you. Thank you for having me, Carol. You are such an extraordinary teacher and leader, and I love it that you have really launched this podcast. And I know you did it because of your absolute love for people and your commitment to make a difference in the world. So first of all, I just got to say thanks. Thanks for having me. And I'm so honored to be an early guest, on your podcast. So let's get after the advice. What is it that I would tell people? I want to back it up for just a minute and tell a short little story and tell you that the reason I got into understanding mindset and focusing on mindset was really my own life experience. My grandfather was a huge fan and actually worked for Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. He had a huge library of early books that were focused on the power of the mind. I'm okay, you're okay. All of those really early books. And every single time I would go to his house, we'd walk into his library. And, it was even before I really was much of a reader. I'm thinking I was, 6, 7, 8 years old. We'd go in there and I was mesmerized. I was mesmerized by knowledge and inspiration and motivation, all that stuff. And, I grew up with parents who were pretty tough on me and pretty critical and had, a lot of attitudes about who I was supposed to be. And he used to pull me aside all the time and say, don't you dare believe anything that, you are being told, because the truth is you're amazing. You are here for a reason. You are a shining light. And someday you will own all of these books, and you'll understand. You'll understand the power of your mind. And, he died when I was young. I never got to share more of that other than the big vision. But I have to tell you that was kind of the early seed. But then the next big thing that happened was, my parents were missionaries. We lived overseas. When we came back, I was an outsider. I was a junior in high school, and I was a bit of an outsider. I was kind of the crazy kid from Korea. And the thing that saved my life, because honestly, I was so depressed and really in a dark place. But the thing that saved my life was my high school coach, right? She was my basketball coach. She was my softball coach. And she taught me the power really of positive thinking at the time. That was kind of what it was called. And so the learning how to use my mind intentionally to create an outcome in athletics, which, now is like every common everyday thing. But at the time it was still kind of leading edge and unheard of and unknown. But she's the one that taught me so much that later was affirmed from my grandfather's books in the library. Henry Ford said this: whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're always right.
Mm-hmm.
And she would help give me actual tools. She would say, look, I want you to think you can't right now. I want you to have an I can't mindset. And then we try to do stuff, on the basketball court. I was like, it never turned out right. And then she said, okay, let's just shift it now. And I want you to believe you can. For just a minute, we would hold pictures in our mind. And all of a sudden, the experience was completely different. And I got it. As a junior in high school. So I was 16 years old. It was like, I got it at a visceral level that your mindset matters.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe you can't, then what's happening from neuroscience perspective is that everything is shutting down. You literally can't think clearly. You're triggering the fear center. And so what happens is all of a sudden obstacles, just normal everyday obstacles that show up, they are going to take you under. But if you shift your mindset and you believe that it's possible, that you can do it, that you can figure it out, then all of a sudden it's as if there is an opening. And as the mind opens and the subconscious opens and the conscious opens and your heart opens, right? In other words, when you set a mindset that says anything is possible, guess what? It usually is.
Mm-hmm.
You figure it out. And so I will have to say that I learned that early on. So my number one first advice would simply be this, to say to people, is that no matter what it is you are trying to accomplish in your life, personal goal, professional goal, financial goal, relationship goal, it doesn't matter what it is. Whether or not you are going to succeed begins with mindset. So what we're going to be talking about today may be the most valuable information you've ever received. If you can just remind yourself, become aware that a negative mindset will never lead you to a happy goal. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. First of all, I love that gift and that shared time with your grandfather. There's nothing like those priceless relationships. And the minute you said that, I thought about one of my earthly heroes, my dad and my mom. But my dad, I'll never forget, he stopped drinking. I believe he was 40. And all of a sudden there was this book, The Road Less Traveled.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, we were so fortunate to have him for so long. That's his stack of books, all about the power of positive thinking and, and his amazing attitude to witness that change in his life was a beautiful gift. And I love that. I know you miss your grandfather. I miss my dad so much. But what you said at the end is huge for me, something that you shared with me, the awareness. I think so often we have these wonderful and big or even small hopes and dreams, but we're not even aware of little thoughts that are trying to sabotage those ideas. And you pointed out and shared with me 3 years ago, you said, oh, I think you might not know this, but your conscious mind is only 5% of the power of your mind. It's all in the subconscious, which is trying to keep you safe. However, you have to be aware of where you're coming from, where your mindset is as you start out each day, or maybe many times throughout the day, correct?
Oh, yeah, you nailed it, Carol. So here's the thing. Your brain has these two parts, conscious and subconscious, and the way you are designed is that your conscious mind it can pay attention to whatever it is around. It is always thinking and remembering. Your conscious mind is that part of you that does the creative problem solving and the analytical thinking and the deductive reasoning and all those things, right? It's conscious awareness, but you're right. It's only active in your day-to-day management. It's only responsible for about 5% of the decisions you make. Everything else, 95%, is being run by the the autopilot, right? The habitual generator. And so the vast majority of our day is run by habits and patterns and, a system of just regurgitating the stuff from before, days before, weeks before, months before, years before. I mean, all we're doing is repeating. And so you're right. If you show up today and you say, man, I got to make a change, then step number one in creating any change in your life is awareness. You must become consciously aware of your subconscious autopilot that's running the show. Otherwise, you just go forward and back and forward and back and forward and back and forward and back. So you're right. Conscious awareness is step one for mindset management. Think of it this way, children, the first 7 years of life, they are living really in their subconscious, right? That autopilot subconscious, their brainwave frequencies are in the lower frequencies. They have no analytical, deductive reasoning, rationalizing, thinking, critical thinking skills. They don't have any of that. They're like a big sponge. They're like a big sponge walking around the world. So everything that someone says to them, everything they see, everything they feel, all of it is just like a data dump. It's just like, bam, you own it. They experience it and you own it. Now, remember that your brain is it's an active fear center looking for things that could threaten your life, right? What it does is it's going to keep you alive. It's going to keep you safe, going to keep you secure. So anything that causes you distress, right? Anything that you're a little bit anxious about as a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, right? Any of that gets imprinted. The information becomes heightened because it could threaten your life. And so that's how you get a 60-year-old who is afraid of reaching out and meeting new people, right? Because the origin of that, which you're right, the origin of that is the fact that somewhere in her early life, she had a scary experience with strangers. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be something so traumatic to be like she was raped. I mean, of course, those things can happen too. But my point to you is that to a little one, everything feels like life-threatening, right? Everything feels scary at higher levels. All you have to do as a kid is witness an argument, witness mommy and daddy having a tense moment, and you could deduct that you are not safe. That, there's just so many things that happen to us. So yes, if you look at your current life experience and you say, what are the things that don't serve me right here, right now? I'm aware in this moment that I'm afraid, right? And so I'm going to pull back. I'm going to hesitate. I'm going to go into self-sabotage. I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to give up, whatever it is, right? You can trace that back to an early origin where you learned a certain behavior to keep you safe, keep you alive. You learned self-management tools. The problem is all those things that felt true as a 7-year-old aren't true as a 60-year-old. But the problem is your automatic pilot, it's just running that program as though it really is. And so what happens is you show up in your adult life and your life, your decisions, your moment to moment experience is literally being controlled by that 7-year-old fear, that 7-year-old self that still lives in your head who said, avoid strangers, right? That's still running the show today. And that's true no matter what the issues are. It really isn't that hard to rewrite all of those scripts. It does take consistency and repetition. You have to be intentional about it. It's not going to happen accidentally because those are early core programmings are just so strong. They're so validated by, you're a little person and the big person in your life is saying this, or peer pressure, or a group of people, or you see it on TV, or whatever it is. It's like your environment confirms your value and your worthiness or your lack of it. And a little one, remember, just a sponge. just sponging it all up and then regurgitating it back out.
So, a lot of times people won't do something because they've judged it themselves. Where do we go with that?
Yeah, here's the thing. People always say to me, I've tried affirmations, which is kind of what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And I've tried affirmations, they don't work. And I don't like to be confrontational, but here's the truth. Affirmations absolutely work. You are affirming
I'm a believer.
every moment of every day, but usually you affirm in the negative. You affirm limits. So you'll say things like, I can't do it. Affirmation. I'm not enough. Affirmation. You are ugly, Erickson. Affirmation. I'm too fat. Affirmation. I'll never get there. Affirmation. I've tried before. I can't do it again. Affirmation. So it's like you are always affirming who you are, what is possible. People are, life is, I am. These are all affirmations you are constantly, repeating, and you've been repeating for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? You've been affirming. So you know what? If your life is showing up in this way that it is, and you think you're not enough, you affirmed your way into that result. It just felt normal to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you stand in front of a mirror and say, you are beautiful, I am amazing, I am unstoppable, it's like doesn't feel real. And then what we say is, oh, this is corny. I don't believe it. So it's coming out of your mouth, I'm amazing. And then you're getting the critical voice that's coming out of your mouth going, no, you're not. Who do you think you are? And so you cancel it out because what's normal is the negative you've been repeating for 30, 40, 50 years. And so the positive, it feels uncomfortable. And so we say, I'm being silly. This is stupid. This isn't going to work. And so you are talking yourself out of the very thing that will work if you do it enough with emotion. Now, earlier, you said something really important. You said, I started out this year a little different as far as my goals. I went forward to the end. And you said something that I want to offer a little coaching around. You said, here's the result I hope will be true. So I just want you to notice, how confident is hope?
Right.
Now,
wishy-washy, a little bit.
A little bit. Now, if you are in negative and you're like, it's never going to happen, then hope is that's a good movement. I would be sitting over here saying, bravo, Carol, hope for it, girl. That's a great next step. But you are better than that. So I'm going to challenge you and say, don't you dare think about what I hope happens. I want you to go to that end and say, it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are in the energy of it's done, I did it, hold the vision of, what it would feel like in December 31st, 2023. Let's say you're at a party, somebody hands you the mic and said, you've had the most amazing year. How did you do that? And you stood up and said, you know what? I did. I had an amazing year. This and this and this and this and this happened. Here's how I did it. And that wouldn't be hope. That would be, it's done. It's over. And I'm now telling you about it. See, when you get into that energy, again, some people would say, oh, it feels hokey. Right. Because you haven't been practicing it. But when you think about something you accomplished yesterday or the day before, it's done already, right? And you're like, I was really amazing. I mean, I had this amazing call. I did this amazing presentation. I did this project. I got it finished. It all came together. I was brilliant, right? When you describe something that's done, there's no hope. There's no hesitation. There's none of that. It's just finished. And what that communicates to the mind, this is what's really important, is you are affirming to the mind, it is so, it is done, it was amazing. And so then what the mind does is it says, oh, it's a memory. It's already finished. It's a memory. And then it behaves differently moment to moment to moment to moment because you are a person who already accomplished that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So when you tell the story about your podcast, my podcast this year is the year I launched it and it went to the top of the charts. It was amazing. I get responses from people every single day that say, yeah, your podcast, it's so real. It's so motivational, it's so inspirational. It moves me. It's educational. It gives me tools. But here's the key. Here's the key, Carol, is that one comes from a place of doneness. And when you claim doneness, your brain responds and says, oh, that's who I am. That's what I've done. Not, I hope to create, but still a lot of doubt whether it's going to happen. Go right back to the conversation at the beginning, right? What the mind believes, then it can achieve. What you think is so, right, is so. If you believe you can, you can. I mean, these are laws of how the world works. And when you get into alignment, then what you will discover is you can pretty much affirm anything and make it so.
Because it's done in your mind.
That's right.
You know, I love that. And thank you for that coaching because I'm going to immediately put that into practice. Another note before we go forward is that when we talk about the affirmations, it's interesting. And even now with social media, you see it so much. People will post beautiful motivational statements. You're enough. You're beautiful. You're intelligent. You know, they are sharing this, the social media world with one another. What's interesting is I think that we hesitate to allow ourselves, you know, it's easier for me to say, oh my God, Deb Erickson, you know, she's so brilliant and she's so motivational and all the things. And for whatever reason, we have all grown up to shortchange our beliefs about ourselves or our knowing about ourselves. Here we all are, children of God. We love to say everyone's equal and it's all good and all the things. However, the reality is, I believe we're judging others on what they would think of ourselves if we accept our God-given gifts and share those with others.
You know why that happens?
Oh, please.
Well, the brain is wired to cling to the negative and let go of the positive. And why it's wired for that, because the negative is normally stuff that you need to be careful of. Something bad could happen if you engage and walk down that path too far. Something bad will happen. That's the fear that controls us. So we are wired to treat negative. It's kind of like, you know, like it's sticky paper, right? Like it's Velcro. We get stuck on it because it has the potential to be more dangerous. And so we focus on it. And the positive is kind of like Teflon. It just stuff slides right off. And this happens all the time in our lives. And we're like, why am I so focused on something that happened one time?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting all these compliments and it kind of feels like it doesn't matter how many people love and adore me. I still don't believe it. Well, that's why, because we are wired for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens to so many people is they have an experience in life. They meet someone, they get bullied by someone, there's a power struggle with someone. And what we do is we observe this person acting out, being obnoxious, being cocky, doing something. We're like, I don't want to be that.
Mm-hmm.
We all say that. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be the kind of leader that. I don't want to be pushy as a salesman. I don't want to be. We're so clear about what we don't want to be, right? Because we're looking at that and saying, I don't want to be that. But then when it comes time to say what we do want to be, what our brain kind of says is like, well, oh, don't say that. Like if I said, I know I'm amazing. I know that I am a world leader in what I do. I know that's who I am, right? There's a little part of my brain that goes, oh, Don't be like your dad. Don't be like that person, right? That was a little too confident. What they really were was cocky. And so I don't want to be like that. And so what happens is I pull way back and I refuse to claim my own greatness because I don't want to be that thing. In other words, I'm trying to stay away from the negative because the negative feels so bad to me and it's so ugly. And I know how people reacted to him. It's like, I don't want to be that. And so what happens then is I just deny my greatness. I deny who I am. I don't stand in my personal power because I'm trying so hard to avoid that I'm not just being me and saying, this is who I am. I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm good at. And you're right. People struggle because somehow we think that we have humility, which is really fascinating. Humility is that energy that keeps you from being cocky and obnoxious. But if you can't confidently own who you are, then you're always living in less than you were created to be. So fascinating. It's a fascinating study.
It really is. And, there's safety there's this conscious safety in complimenting and affirming your gifts, someone else's gifts.
Right.
And then you're right. It gets to, ooh, how much of this can I say about myself?
Let me add one more. I want to add one more thing because you said something really important. We are such primitive beings, really. Our brain and the way we operate. So here's one of the things we're wired for is stay in the middle of the pack. Stay in the middle. Don't be a leader and don't be the last one. Why? Because if you look at any animals, go look at an Africa safari video, and you know who gets picked off by the lions? The ones on the outside, right? So when the deer are running, they all try to run in the middle because if you're out the front, you're out at the back, and you're on the edges, you're vulnerable. Get in the middle, right? Don't be seen. And so we have this hardwired to not stand out because you could be a target if you stand out. And so what we're saying is we're wired for mediocrity. We are doing what we're doing because we know sometimes it's the tiniest shift that is needed to create the energy required to, move to the next level. It's like, I can't tell you the number of times that I've been on stage or I've been teaching from a Zoom and while I'm engaged in a conversation, I see a comment, and somebody shares a little like a light bulb moment. And later they will say that one comment, that one idea, that one, tool changed everything for me, which is amazing. What we're really saying is our lives are kind of like a domino board, right? It's like one shift all of a sudden creates that domino effect in our lives towards what it is we want. And it's exciting to be a part of this. And Carol, I just have to say, watching you grow, watching you be accountable and use the tools and practice this, it takes time, right? If you were originally wired for 7 years and you are 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, that means you've been repeating the same stuff for all those years. The turnaround of that doesn't happen in one class or one inspirational experience. It is the practice over and over and over to create new neural pathways that gets us where we want to go. So I applaud you for being a shining example of someone committed to the change years and years and years. You've practiced and stepped into bigger and bigger steps. And look at you hosting your own podcast around mindset. And I have to say, I think you're brilliant. I think you're brilliant.
Oh my gosh. Coming from Deb Erickson, that is quite a compliment. I'm learning to just say thank you.
Mindset management begins with your core belief, right? your core beliefs, whether you believe you can or you can't, right? That core belief inspires the thoughts that are running through, your mind, 6,000 thoughts a day. Those thoughts, positive or negative, create emotions, right? That feelings that begin to drive us to the action, and the action brings us to the results. And so it is a nonstop cycle, right? That when you get your results, usually what happens is it confirms the core belief. So if you say, I can't do it, I can't, I'm not enough. If that's a core belief, then the thoughts that run all day long is, why bother? It's never going to work out. I knew it wasn't going to work, and then the emotions get into frustration and impatience and helpless and anger and fear. And then those emotions cause you probably to hesitate and self-sabotage in one way or another. And that brings you lousy results. And then when you sit next to the lousy results, you go, see, I told you, right? But you can change that whole thing by just beginning with that core belief that says, I can, I am enough, I can do this. And it changes.
Deb. And you all, it is okay. We can individually, and we can help each other and support one another. You 100%, all of us can achieve whatever it is that is upon our hearts to do so. And there's nothing like the present moment. So be aware, be intentional, and check into icaninstitute.com. And if you have any questions, of course, contact me. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, Deb, on every level, I really appreciate you and thank you. And I can't wait till we catch up and share with people the next step. Happy 2023. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Love it, Carol.
Gosh. And thank you all for listening so very much.
I got my mind set.